But never forget your first.
No, exactly. I'm not trying to change the world with my novels. I'm just trying to entertain people. I think sport, which is a form of storytelling, right? So it's really probably the last bastion of unscripted storytelling. We don't know what's going to happen. It's human interaction at its sort of purest, I think.
Today's special guest is a rare blend of governance, entrepreneurship and creativity. He's the director of Tennis Australia, the business Brisbane leader behind Golf Central Entertainment Precinct near the airport, and a published crime novelist. He moves between boardrooms, development projects, crime scenes, and is joining us in the studio today. Welcome, Peter.
Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to this.
Now, mate, to kick us off, I know that you're a panellist at an event that I was fortunate enough to attend last week. Building Brisbane. What are you excited about, and where do you see the opportunities?
I think Brisbane. I think locals are often the last people to appreciate what they've got. You know, you live with it. It's like my golf course. I think, oh yeah, it's okay, but when see it through somebody's eyes, and you'll fall in love with it again. So I think hopefully Brisbane will fall in love with it, or South East Queensland will fall in love with itself again, and we can see that confidence spill over into all sectors, you know, from entertainment to our sporting performances to our business confidence, and so that's what I'm most excited about, is what Brisbane can become by just realising how great we are.
Mate, what do you think is lacking right now between now and 2032? What are we missing?
I think we're going to struggle to get the allied entertainment activities built in time, because there's going to be so much capacity mopped up in the big projects. And we heard from Graham Newton that from the Cross River Rail that there's $7 billion worth of stadiums and $48 billion worth of rail to be completed in the same time.
Wow.
So add all those things up, private development and private construction is going to be constrained, and you know, I think you're going to have relationships with your builders to get things actually done. Magnus would be all over this, and so yes, it's that allied stuff, because we want. There was some research done that I came across that showed that Brisbane people are worried. They're not worried about the cost actually so much. They're worried that it's going to be built in time. They're worried that we're going to get people around from a transport sense, and they're worried that people are going to have a good time. And I think that goes to the sense of pride as a South East Queenslander, that we want to put on a good show, and it's that allied stuff that I'm more concerned about, because I think we'll get the stadiums built, we'll get the transport done.
Yeah.
It's that other stuff that I'm sort of more worried about.
Mate, as a builder, are you confident we'll get all those things done in time?
I wouldn't say I'm confident, and I agree with Peter's point. And I spoke to a gentleman that's quite a prominent builder in Brisbane last year, and he was saying there was circa 50,000 jobs required to get the work done just for the Olympics. And that's not including some of that transport work you're referring to. The state government's still committed to some hospitals. But where are those 50 people? We've got a housing crisis. Where are you going to house those 50,000 people to be able to build what we need to build? But I think somehow you just get it done, but it's going to be more challenging in the years to come when we really start. Like, we're in the design phase at the moment, so as soon as they start to get boots on the ground, it's interesting. Speaking of property, Peter, how did you first get involved in property, and have you got a significant project that you could share with us?
I owned a software company. I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing, but I've never actually held a job in my life. So I started a company in university. It went okay, and then I got into property development as an investment vehicle for myself. Because I'm a mathematical background, I like commercial property. It sits with me. It's numbers. It's not really emotion. It's just making the numbers work. And so, that one thing led to another, and all of a sudden I found myself almost full-time property development, and it's been good to me. Yeah, it's been great.
I just want to dissect some of those things. You just said mathematics, your history in mathematics, and you started a software company.
Yeah.
But I don't think you did justice in the introduction, because I'm curious. Before we even get to the mastering of your books that you've done, 6 books in a matter of, how many years did it take you to write 6 books?
Maybe 4.
4 years.
Yeah.
2 trilogies. Okay. That's, simple. But before that, how
I mean, I was...
a lot more to dissect, I think.
I was studying in university. I'd been accepted to do a PhD in mathematics in Oxford.
Okay.
And
what did you do your undergrad in?
Maths and then physics.
Okay.
And then I came across, literally it's like this, I came across a personal computer and I went, wow, these things, because I was used to going up into the mainframe with a deck of cards and sitting there all night waiting for my program to run, for it to tell me that I'd made a mistake in my coding.
Yeah.
And my model that I was building, and I could just do this thing. I could put a command in and it would tell me straight away, and I was just blown away. So I thought about setting up a software company with another uni student friend of mine. It wasn't successful in the wild, Microsoft sort of era, but it was modestly successful and quite influential. But the property thing just took over.
So what was the, sorry to dive in, I'm curious, being my tech background and
it was application. It was straight application software. So
software.
Yeah, straight application software.
Which era was this in?
So we had we actually started in agriculture, and we had a arrangement with the University of New England.
Okay.
And we wrote software for genetics, for selection of genetic selection of animals. And then I got into real estate. We had a real estate division. It was but pure application software written with really clunky code. Stuff sent around on floppy disks, no internet. If you wanted to upload or fix a computer, you had to dial in on a modem that went, those sort of modems. It was really clunky. And, you talk about turning points.
Yeah.
I probably should have stuck with it a bit longer and waited for the internet to come in, because that opened up a whole another world, although it took another 10 or 15 years, by which stage I was, comfortable financially and probably I can't regret that. So,
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. Anyone who's played with a computer, I don't know which era you're talking about. It maybe early 80s. Is that?
It was it was right through the 80s and into the early 90s.
You know how hard computers are used.
It was
and MS DOS, and you got Lotus 123s, and they weren't the type of software that you talk about these days. So
it was
anyone
clunky.
who can make any sense out of it to solve a problem, kudos to you, mate. And to make money out of that, to then be able to pivot into something else.
Barely. But anyway, it was a transition that I didn't really plan, and it just happened. And I'd like to think I could change direction every 10 years in some way, some shape or form. Not be a wholesale stop that, but just have a direction change every 10 years. That's sort of been my sort of goal, I suppose, in a subtle sort of sense.
Is that because you get bored?
Yeah.
Doing one thing?
Absolutely.
In terms of...
Which is one of... I see you were going to ask me what my greatest weakness is. It's getting bored too quickly. Yeah. That's a bit of a problem.
I think that's a really good segue into sort of question I had for you. You sort of sit on a few boards and you've run businesses. When you go into them, what determines whether you just reinvigorate what's already there versus scrap everything and we're starting again and we've got to clean out the closet?
Okay, if I'm honest, I like a business that's a bit broken. I would prefer to get involved in something that's not going perfectly, and then play a part in bringing it back. Yep. Not that I would play a big part, but one thing I think I'm good at is bringing people along with me. So, we can find a direction, and I can bring people along on that journey. Tennis Australia was far from broken, as an example. So, but it's a big business like that. There's always
stuff.
All the lots you can do. Yeah. Another one I did was St Margaret's School, which was in real trouble with a bad series of choices in their employment, and we were in real danger of a 120-year-old business getting into trouble. So we turned that around, and it was like a big gigantic cruise liner turning in the Brisbane River. It took ages and ages to get around, but once we got going the other direction, it was
with unclear waters. So
and so that's probably like a too good sort of example where Tennis Australia just needed something maybe a little bit different. It wasn't like a full UE bolt, whereas St Margaret's was sort of like holy crap, we got
Yeah.
to do a full UE here and sort of. But what was sort of some of the factors within that sort of, was it the people within there, or is it just purely the vision? What sort of do you pick up on? No, we got to do a full UE here.
In the board level, or in
in
the
the board, probably from a board level.
So I think from a board level, the thing that defines success to me is people around the table, smart people around the table with the same sort of value set. I think if you're sitting there with the same value set, it's really easy to make the right decisions, and you don't waste time arguing about the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier when you've got the same value set. So that's not easy on a lot of boards. It's not easy to get the right value set around you, but if you can find a way to do that, that's pretty powerful. And then having confidence in your executive, and that's where a lot of boards have trouble because they just don't have that confidence, which then doesn't give the executive the latitude to deliver on their strategy or envisage a strategy, because they're always thinking, I wonder how the board's going to pull me back on this. Whereas, in the perfect scenario, the CEO has these great ideas, comes to you, stress tests them. You might not agree with them, but he walks away or she walks away going, yeah, I see what they're coming at, and we can tweak that and come back again with another set of ideas. Have I explained that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
While you're on the board, while we're on tennis, where do you see the future of tennis? It was just off the back of another hugely successful Australian Open, and then now there's pickleball knocking on the door.
Yeah, see, people say that about pickleball, and I'm guessing you might be a pickleball player.
What made you call it?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So Tennis Australia is an amazing business. The Australian Open is a juggernaut. Our growth is far outstripped all the other slams. We're the largest of the slams, which is just incredible, down in little old Melbourne. At the other end of the world, we're the biggest of the slams in pretty much all the metrics. So it's going fine. Participation is always a challenge, and there's a huge disconnect between the delivery of infrastructure between the big infrastructure and the small community infrastructure. Anyone who's been involved in sport will know that challenge, because they're funded by different levels of government. You've got, feds and states funding the big stuff, and you've got councils who've got no money trying to fund the community stuff. So there's a big disconnect there. Pickleball complementary formats, which we call them, so that includes pickleball, paddle, beach pop tennis, beach tennis. They're brilliant. I mean, they are just brilliant assets for tennis, because they bring more people to the sport. They bring more people to venues. They're great for the Australian Open, because tennis is the hardest of those sports by a country mile, and it's the most athletic and skill-based of those.
So you think it creates that community level participation?
That complementary. That flows through complementary formats. Yeah, so they can reinvigorate sporting clubs, tennis clubs, racket clubs, whatever you want to call them. We're putting paddle into our golf facility. So what the research is finding, the US is a bit ahead of us in terms of pickleball. They got into it a lot earlier. They are finding that tennis participation has jumped as well as pickleball. So they're not predatory against each other. They're complementary.
It's like a 20-20 format or a sevens format in rugby or something like that.
Exactly.
Is that what we need to do with every sport now? You just break it down to the lowest level of participation or the skill level, then introduce that.
I think what Peter's saying though is it's ensuring that it's not a fight against each other. It's understanding that there's, I've always sort of said that about sport in general in Australia, that we shouldn't be competing against sports. Like, it shouldn't be NRL versus AFL or, cricket versus tennis. It should be like, no, they should run together, and we should be all pushing it together. So I think that's a really good example of where it works. And
Tennis Australia is serious about it. So last year we put it into a constitution that tennis is defined as all of those things.
Yeah.
So we don't care. Covered by insurance program if you're at an affiliated club. It's all go as far as we're concerned. So there'll be challenges along the way. Those players come with different mindsets to the sport. They come in it differently. They're different age groups generally, different demographics. But it's great. It's fantastic. And I just want to say, at the golf driving range, it was so easy for me to make that assumption, because we have a really busy golf facility, and we don't have a golf course. We're way busier than any course in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Probably all the courses combined, but we don't have a golf course. And it's still golf. Like that, it's still golf. Like they're still enjoying it. They're still loving hitting a ball, and they're still consuming the sport probably on television now and going to clubs and playing.
Before we move away from tennis to golf, I want to ask, is Tennis Australia bigger than Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. He's done a fantastic job, and he's got a brilliant team, as everyone would know. He's leaving in some months' time. And I get it from his point of view. He's got one probably big challenge left in his life, and the USTA is it. So and he's got family over there. So
it makes sense for him, but
there's always losing a CEO or replacing a CEO is a tough gig, and as from a board member, if there's one thing the board has to get right, it's getting a CEO. Recruiting a CEO. That's sort of the number one job a board has. So to have to do that when you've got a brilliant CEO already in the series it'll be a bit of work, but it's also exciting because you can set us up for the next 10 years, and if we do it right, and you've got a brilliant role model. He's not rushing away, so he's happy to be part of the transition.
And if he's done the right job, you'd imagine there's a pretty good team there behind. Like it's not just him, if he's done a good job, if the board's done a good job, there's going to be a good team.
You don't want to lose that momentum though, because
you don't want to lose the momentum. But I think he's put it in. I think he's left the organisation, and as I heard him say recently, he's left the organisation in a better way than it was when he arrived, and that's all you want to achieve, really.
That's true.
So. We'll be pushing $1 billion revenue, which is huge, and that's public. So I'm not giving away any secrets. If it was a quarter that size, it'd actually be harder, I think, to replace the CEO, because at that scale and that scale of event, it's a machine. They're already planning. Our first board meeting is planning for AO 2027. It's just a machine that just chugs away. He's got it lined up. So I'm once I got over the shock of not the shock of it, that sort of I'm losing my CEO. I'm good.
Should be excited. I think by the sound of it, the board's really stable. I think when you've got a stable board and you've got this machine that you mentioned, I don't think you're going to have too much trouble attracting the right calibre of CEO.
Yeah, But sport's different, right? It's got 1 million stakeholders, and they're all vocal. They've all got a point of view. It goes right from the tennis club at the back of to the Australian Open to all the international stuff we have to do. We're a shareholder in an event in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's a broad group of stakeholders that you don't see in most organisations. So it's a big job and a tough job. So we'll find someone. I'm convinced, but it's not going to be. There's not going to be 30 people who are contenders. 3 maybe. I'm guessing we'll find.
Peter, before we talk about your new venture or few of your new ventures, I want to take stock, right? Like we when we're doing a research, whether you get bored with one thing or not, and you go to the next one, it's really hard to sort of figure out what you've done with your life. Like you talked about your software company, and then that you wrote for agriculture, property development. You've built a golf course here in Brisbane. It's probably one of the best and shiniest ones we've got right now.
What a brilliant concept on that. I noticed that when we were out there the other week, and you built this driving range right next to a discount outlet shopping centre. So what a perfect place for the blokes like you go and have a shop.
Yeah,
I'm going to go and hit a few balls. I reckon it's brilliant.
I was presented with that opportunity with my colleague, who's still my colleague, James, who's the golf expert. He is an ex-golf pro, and he said, "I've got this site. I don't know how to put it together. Can you come and have a look at it?" And I walked on the site and I went, "Oh my goodness, 17 hectares this close to the city. We have to get our hands on this, and we'll find a way. We'll work it out." I was so confident that we would work it out. It was a swampy, wet, poorly drained site, but I went, "Wow, this is too good to let go." So, we spent a year trying to work out how we're going to make this pay, and came up with this idea, and then it went well. COVID was a great thing for us. People rediscovered golf during COVID.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, let's go. It's clear that there's an entertainment element to this that's working, so let's go and build the brewery and the distillery and the concert venue and all the other things that we're doing there. It's fantastic. It's a great project. It's my number one.
Is that leased?
We've got at least till I think 2100. I think. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I probably see me out. I've told them my age before this, so they probably will laugh. So with federal, it's a sublease through BAC through the federal government.
So how did you the swampland? You got this concept. How did you put something like that together?
So you have to have the vision. I think you have to look at something and have the vision, but not be blinded by the vision. You have to push and pull it until it works. And I think that's with property development. It's often the same. You see something, I want to build a 14-story tower. You might find that the soil conditions don't allow you to do that, or it just becomes too prohibitively expensive. So you've got to be able to stress test your models and your ideas and be prepared to change those on the fly almost. Yeah. One step, one foot ahead of the other. Each, okay, we'll do this. Is that going to work? We'll do the model. Is that going to work? It's got to be financially viable. So that's obviously the trick. It can look good, but if it's not going to pay for itself, then it
starts with the vision, then ends up on the FISO, and if it stacks up, then
if it stacks up, great. If it doesn't stack up, and you still know in your heart that it's going to work, then you know your idea is wrong, so you'll reshape that, stress test it again.
So what's the biggest challenge of that project? Of the big Caltech, the big Shell service station out there in the McDonald's, I built that a number of years ago, so I'm very familiar with the ground conditions out there and the joys of working with BAC. So what were your biggest challenge out there?
In terms of, it's difficult. I mean, they've regulated the hell out of life out there. So it's, even though that site's not actually on airport, it's part of the airport overlay. So you get all the airport regulations, which quite reasonably are stringent, because you can't have, as we're seeing what's happening in other places in the world, you lose your airport and you're in a bit of strife. So I get why it's stringent, but it's very difficult. Everything takes a lot longer than you think. But one of the interesting challenges of that business is not what you'd think, in that once we established it, we knew it was good, but we just couldn't get people there. I mean, they would drive past to the DFO, and then I'd be talking to someone and they'd say, where are you? And I'd go, the DFO, have you ever been there? Oh, I go every week. I've never seen you. So we had big signs and we just had trouble getting people there. COVID delivered them in spades because they sought us out. And once everyone had found us, it was word of mouth,
So to give a bit of context, it's on the north side of Brisbane, in the same precinct as the direct factory outlets.
That's it.
And then right next to the Brisbane airport itself.
Yes.
So it's not in the middle of nowhere. It's a pretty high sort of impact
it's great.
area.
And the best thing about it, I read that because of the ICB, it's so easy to act. Like I'm on the west side of Brisbane, and it's still pretty close to me because I can just go on the other side of the ICB and I'm there. Like it's so accessible.
Well, when we opened up, that wasn't functioning.
No.
All of that infrastructure. And I said, gee, isn't it great? The government's spending $8 billion delivering customers to our front door.
Building you a driveway.
Yeah, how good.
What year did you open?
We opened 2014.
Oh wow, it's been around since 2014.
Yeah, exactly.
That's to your point.
You hit my point. Yeah. So that was it. That was a challenge, and we just had to be patient, I think, and just keep promoting and keep willing word of mouth. But COVID definitely was just a giant uptick as people sought out things to do, outside activities.
It was huge.
Things they could do.
How many of your golfing partners gave their opinions on how you should do it, and were they helpful, or was it like nice to get their ideas around how you structure it? You didn't get any.
I didn't give them an opportunity. Simple as that. Because I was probably delivering I'm a golfer, but I was delivering the constructability side of
rather
it,
than the golfing
rather than the
expertise
golfing.
side.
And my colleague is a golf guy. He's got a rare combination of hospitality experience. He worked for David Mariner. He worked for IMG. So he's got a rare combination, but he's really strong on the golf. So between us, we can sort of cover off on most of the challenges that we've had to face.
Peter, when you've gone from one to another project, do you take the expertise you learn from one project to the other one? Do you master a craft, or do you just get enough so you can move on? Does it have any impact?
Are you talking about the property side? Or?
Anything that you do, like you build software, then you went into property, then you're a scratch golfer. Like, did that have any?
What was a scratch golfer?
I think if you've been a scratch golfer once, you're always a scratch golfer. But
I think
does it help you then?
Inevitably.
Yeah,
I mean, but you don't notice it. You don't notice it. I don't think you don't have time to notice it. So yes, my maths, my software, very analytical. It's no surprise that I would take that approach to property development, that I'd be hugely analytical.
So you're not consciously sort of sorting out for things that fits in with your expertise, and it's happening without even noticing it?
I haven't done that. I perhaps should have. I should have focused on sticking within a narrower band, but that's
I disagree.
It's
with
a lot of fun.
I think what you've done is you've just followed your heart. You've followed opportunity, and then you've capitalised on the fact that those other areas of expertise that you've gone through have just, I guess, enhanced the next.
Maybe it's a success comes from the expertise that you've got from other projects, right? Like
they complement each other, but I don't think they sit on top of each other.
Yeah, I actually think
I haven't met too many people that's got that many fingers in their pies.
You say that like it's a good thing.
It is a great thing. It is actually a good thing if you're successful.
Okay, I think there is one thing you learn that you do take across is make sure you've got great people beside you.
Yeah.
And if you've got great people beside you, it's a lot easier to do anything. Like, you can each augment each other's skills. So getting great people and making sure you don't get the wrong people on your team, because they can destroy your psyche and your life. So
is that project, that the golf driving range, is that the biggest risk that you've taken in property?
Probably, because it's not underpinned by a multinational tenant or your shell. It's we either
hasn't got the security of a lease agreement.
So if it didn't work, then it hurts. It was going to hurt a lot. So that's probably the biggest risk. I mean, I've got lots of other projects where the risk, I think, is mitigated really heavily in one way or another. That was, if we screwed it up, then it was going to hurt. You were right on the money there.
No, well, let's change gears and talk about novel writing. So what first inspired you to write novels? And I believe you've got a bit of a not the same process-driven methodology on how you go about writing a novel. Tell us how you go about it.
I think we've got this is the first book, right?
Yeah, that's the very first one I wrote. Yeah, back in the middle of the COVID nightmare.
Yep.
Yeah.
Up to 6 books.
Yeah, really. Got a soft spot for that one. Obviously, it was a story that
never forget your first.
No, exactly. In so many ways. So how I started writing small opinion pieces, but about sport and its role in community. So that was, and then I started to publish them. I still remember publishing the first one of those, and the fear that I had of pressing post on an article that was putting my ideas out for everyone to read. Anyway, a couple of them got picked up, by the mainstream media, and I thought, okay, I might have something to say that people want to hear. And then COVID came along, and I was, struggling to keep myself busy, and that one came from a holiday, and I dreamed up this sort of broad part of a plot and then started to write it. But what I learned in the process was that there are two types of writers, and I've learnt this subsequent. There are plotters, which almost every layman who hasn't written a book thinks you have to be a plotter, that you have the plot laid out on a whole lot of sticky notes on your wall. And there are pantsers, which I am, which is a fly by the seat of your pants. So I have no idea what's going to happen in my books. So when I start writing them, I don't know sometimes don't know who the characters are. I don't know what the plot is going to reveal, and I don't know who the culprit is. And it's very exciting to write like that because,
it's almost like you're reading it.
Yeah.
It's also exciting to read. I was actually having a chat to Peter a few weeks back and said to Peter, one of my favorite authors is Jeffrey Archer.
Yeah.
And I said, your books sort of reminded me, and that's why when you recommended me the books were a couple of years back.
Ago,
yeah. And I was like, there was a similarity in it, and it didn't really click to me until we were having that conversation and you were trying to explain the two differences. And I said, yeah, that's it. That's what it is. Because I felt reading Jeffrey Archer book, and I've been reading Jeffrey Archer since I was a little kid, and I always felt like he had no idea what the hell he was writing about. I don't think he ever knew.
It surprises me about you though, Peter, because you're obviously very analytical and you're very sort of looked like you're more process driven than being able
I was quite
down.
surprised too if you look at your background.
Surprised me too, I have to say.
It works.
Looking at it really systematically, it's not that surprising because writing a novel is just a big puzzle that I'm putting together, and I'm assembling the pieces as I go. When I did try to plot it out, if I try to plot it out too far ahead, it just doesn't work for me. And I never write like that. I wrote a chapter. I'm writing at the moment, so I go through phases where I'm either editing, writing, marketing, and I'm writing at the moment. And I wrote a chapter on Sunday morning, and I came out from my office and I said to my wife, oh my God, I had no idea that was going to come out. When I sat down this morning, I had no idea what was going to happen. And it's so invigorating when you come out of that and you go, wow, that is really interesting. And I didn't know I had that in me. It's fascinating that happens.
So you're writing at the moment, so you've finished your last trilogy. Is there
I've got
is there a new series coming out?
Yeah, a new series coming out. It'll come out in the next few months.
Yeah, wow.
And I've finished the first one. I'm writing the second one of that series. And it is, I think one thing I did learn is it's good to write, at least be partway through the second one before you release the one before it, because there's things you can fix up or connections you can make between the two novels that you can do on the fly. Once it's out there, it's much harder to make those sort of adjustments.
So what's this new?
It's a PI. Private investigator. He's a young Australian, and he's a lawyer working in London, and he gets himself into all sorts of strife. He's not a James Bond. He's the sort of opposite of a James Bond, but he's a cool guy, and and he has a lot of fun in his job. So he's and I was heavily influenced by Raymond Chandler in putting that guy together. I don't know, Raymond Chandler, 1950s author, largely attributed to be the father of modern crime crime writing, and he's a fantastic writer. A lot of it would get cancelled in today's world, but he would be. Yes. But he is the way he structures his books and the wry humour that he sprinkles throughout the text. Is just, it's a joy to read, and you've just got to look past any of the glaring, things that clash with modern day, I suppose. So I don't know what's going to happen. I love it when people say to me, "I'm reading your book, I'm about at chapter 20, and I know who's done it." And I go, "Well, I didn't know. I didn't know who did it then, so I don't know how you are going to." So It surprised me as much. Michael Connolly's another pantser.
Oh, is he?
Okay. So, it's an interesting way to write.
Okay. A lot of authors leave a bit of themselves in their writing. In this couple of series, where do you think you fit in? It's a female detective. a pretty dark sort of material that you're writing.
Yeah, she's got a lot of my views. That's a lot of my views, a lot of my experiences, and my books try and take on a theme. So each book is about a crime, but within that is a subtext of a theme. And for instance, this one here, that's really about the tension between developers and environmentalists. So there's this constant tension that exists, and
Is there?
Sure. If it's a healthy tension, it's
You're both, aren't you?
yeah. But you know, when it's it's at finding that balance between environmental and development that I explore in that book, and then corruption that creeps in
That comes in the
as
dark
people
side.
try to overturn the other. You know, so that's a subtext to the plot. That's not the main plot.
Yeah.
And the other ones, it's about there's some crypto. There's some the one I'm writing at the moment's really about biotech and AI and the risks, looming risks about what might happen if AI gets itself loose.
How
in the
risky
biotech world.
is that about? I was going to ask you because you did write about NFTs and crypto in the last book, and how risky is that to incorporate whatever is currently sort of the buzz technology or buzzwords or whatever's going on into writing books?
Probably not very smart because it's going to date the book, isn't it? I
Yeah, and that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Is that a consideration when you're an author, or you're just trying to connect? Because connection is one thing. Then
yeah, it's risky for sure. But I've just gone back and read all the Raymond Chandler novels.
Yeah.
And I love them. So they were written in the 50s, completely different societal values and standards, but still great to read and fun. I'm not trying to change the world with my novels. I'm just trying to entertain people. Actually, my goal...
That's actually a good point. Yeah,
my goal in writing is for busy people like me to pick up the book at night, read a short chapter, and transport themselves out of their day so they can go to sleep. That's ultimately... If I can do that with my books, that's great.
And to be honest, it gives you an insight into that, how people were living at that time when you're writing it, right? So
Let's talk about discipline. Do you consider yourself a disciplined person? And even like writing, there's a lot of people, they talk about writing a book. You've obviously done it, and there's plenty of people that start but they don't finish. Where do you see yourself on that spectrum?
I'm naturally a disciplined person. I mean, you can't have, and self-disciplined, you can't have had sort of my life, me never had a job, and, I'm not super wealthy, but I've done okay. You can't have that sort of approach to life and not be disciplined because
well said.
You just wouldn't make it. So, I'm naturally disciplined, and writing it's an easy thing. I find it relatively easy to do. I'm not saying I'm the world's greatest writer, but I'm finding crafting a novel relatively straightforward, and it's simple as I get up in the morning at sort of 5, and sometimes earlier. Sometimes my wife does not particularly love me getting up earlier than 5, but I get up early, I grab a cup of coffee, I will then try and write 1,500 words on average. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. An average book's 80 to 90,000 words, so that's 60 days. I mean, it's that simple. It's just 1,500 a day.
So analytical, considering you don't know what you're talking about or where the story's going.
So does a good project manager make a good author then? It seems like you've if I look back at most of the stuff you've done, you've managed the projects quite well, whether it's a transformational project you've done with St. Margaret's you've talked about before, or being part of Tennis Australia, or building a golf driving range, or writing a book. There seems to be a very common theme.
Well, I think you have to have a good imagination, and there has to be a sort of creative side to you that is there. So I think that was always there. I've got very creative. I had a very creative mother, and so I think you've got to have that creative side because you're dreaming stuff up.
Yeah,
You're managing your time and you're managing a process and a plot, and within those 1,500 words, at the end of that, there's a problem I have to solve. The because of the way I write, I get to the end of that and I go, okay, where am I going next? What's the problem I'm going to solve? And then I let myself cogitate on that for a little bit, and I solve that problem, and then I go forward into the next problem. I don't know whether I've explained myself, but each page, each paragraph.
But there's 100 different moving parts, right? You've got to write the book, but you still got to make sure that you're plotting in the right direction and certain things don't drop off.
I think it's closer. Like from my experience of property development, to be a good property developer, you need to know a little bit about a range of different things. But the fundamental skill is the vision. Like you've got to be able to look at something and have the vision. I think that's what you're able to do, and that's transformed back into your writing more so than project management. Because, like I said, in my experience, there's so many different moving parts. And as a property developer, what you do every day is you're solving somebody else's problem.
I think that's a really good analogy. I just think mathematics is hugely creative. Like the higher order mathematics, it's not arithmetic. I mean, it's dreaming stuff up and solving problems.
I'd love to hear Will's comment on that, because my wife's an accountant, and so being a bit creative on the spreadsheet. What are your thoughts around that, Will?
I probably come from the opposite. I like maths because there's a right or wrong answer. It's not grey. As soon as my job is, the hardest part about my job is when it becomes grey. And so people are like, yeah, but what's the answer? I'm like, well, it depends. Whereas with maths, the bit I do like about maths is 1 + 1 is 2, and you cannot argue unless you talk to my daughter and she says
what about tax? Because I'm continuously getting I'm trying to be creative, and there's a big shade of grey.
I did a talk this morning, and someone said, "Oh, so you're going to teach me how to do tax avoidance?" I said, "No, I'm going to how to do tax minimisation," and there's a big difference. So yeah,
one's legal, the other one's not.
Yeah, that's right. So look, I think that's a bit that I like about maths is there's no right or wrong.
But I think Peter was talking about a total different. I think what he appreciates, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite to that.
Yeah.
The total opposite to that.
My background is theoretical physics and mathematics as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. We had that conversation. You understand.
That's a whole.
It's almost open ended, whereas mine's a very.
But we've got in property development, it is just it's continuously moving and shifting. Well, if something else you get an overrun over here, well then you got to figure out how I can cut some costs over here. So it's moving. It's not as rigid as 5 + 5. You're just moving things from this column into that column. So it overall stacks up.
I can tell you in physics, nothing adds up.
No, it is quite different to what people think, isn't it? Yeah. So I think there's a creative element in all of those things. So I do think you have to have a creative side.
I think there is a culmination of everything sort of coming together, and you've been whether it's fortunate or intellectual enough to actually implement all of that into things that make sense, whether it's a golf course.
I hope that makes sense.
It is making sense because you're actually doing things, right?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. You are doing things that.
Do you think that physics side has actually helped you golf? Like, do you think it is a bit of like when you approach the ball and you're like, you know the distance or whatever, but you go, well, if it works like this, or do you think it's just
or is it worse because you're contemplating the velocity of the ball?
I think it's all of the above. Golf is an incredibly difficult sport. Like, it's so blindingly difficult, and that's the great thing about it. You never have mastery over golf. Because I read a statistic that the average all golfers hit no more than 6 or 7 good shots around. Now, obviously, the great golfers hit their bad shots are still good or great. So everyone is sort of in that same paradigm. It's how much we grind it out, and I've only have a certain amount of time to practice, and I got to my lowest handicap during COVID because I was playing a lot of golf and it was practicing a lot.
I 100% agree. Like I was the best golfer when I was at boarding school because I literally did nothing else but chip and putt. When I go home, Mum and Dad would leave me on the golf course and I'd play just all day. And the more you play, the more you play, the more you play. It's funny that, isn't it? Such a repetition.
Repetition builds confidence.
Yeah,
and the grind, just the grind of doing and allowing that repetition to sort of seep into your game or your soul, and it's so important.
Do you feel like you're getting better as a writer as you do more? Are you up to your 7th book? Is it getting easier?
Yes. Yeah, definitely getting easier. I don't have any lack of plot, so finding the theme is really quite easy. I've got quite a few lined up.
Yeah.
So finding that's hard. It is hard getting going. So if you imagine I'm writing about this scene today, right? We're us sitting around here. It takes a lot of mental energy for me to build this scene up in my head. You know, all the faces, how people looking at you, the scene, the table.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy to build that up. Writing it once I've got it built is relatively easy, so I put that down. So it's getting going in the morning. That first paragraph is torture, and every morning, and starting a novel is double torture, but it gets easier, you know, as you go and as your thoughts start to assemble, and your subconscious is working the whole time in the background, and it gets to a point where it starts feeding you ideas that you don't even know about. That's why I get so excited when I walk out and I say, I didn't know I was going to write that.
Yeah.
It's because my subconscious, it fed me that at some stage during the day.
What's harder, the starting piece or the dip?
The dip.
Lots of authors talk about that dip, right? Like you hit a wall every now and then.
My dips are caused by holidays or the Australian Open, or I just lose all of that that structure that I built up.
The momentum?
Yeah, I use momentum and all that structure I build up, and then I've got to come back and start again. I did get a great tip about writing multiple novels, and someone said the day you finish your novel, you need to start the next one. And even if you get 3 chapters done, which is nothing, you know, 5,000 words, in your mind you've got a book underway, and if you're a disciplined person, you won't let that go.
Yeah, it's almost like an anti-procrastination hack.
You'll just come back to it and you go, I'll work on that book I'm writing, rather than I've got to start a new book.
Do you write more than one book at a time?
I will edit one and write. Yeah, okay. It's a bit of both, depending on how I feel in the day.
If you got 100 ideas going through your head, would you?
No, I can only write one at any one time.
That's why I'll never become an author.
Yeah. You've got too many things going on, have you?
It'll be, if I start writing, I'll probably stop halfway through. I'll come up with a better idea and start writing again.
Because I don't know what ideas I'm going to come up with. It's like I'm writing a new
every chapter's a new book anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty exciting.
Where do you see? I hear a lot of people, and that I have written a book as well, and I went to a book writing course a number of years ago. But now with AI being everywhere, do you think there's any threat to the human storytelling?
I think there's a huge threat to human storytelling. I think so. I'll go back to what I think is going to do well. I think sport, which is a form of storytelling, right? So it's really probably the last bastion of unscripted storytelling. We don't know what's going to happen. It's human interaction at its sort of purest, I think, one of its purest. Yeah. So I think sport's going to go well in an AI world. I do worry about the creatives. I hope live music does well.
I think it's uncertain because
I'll challenge a sport one too, right? We had one of the best sports analysts in our podcast, Greg O'Shaughnessy, right? And he talked about taking that element. It's like, at what point do you automate all of that to a point where human intuition gets overridden by statistics and that artificial intelligence?
But that's where the intuition that we talked about comes into play.
I know,
as well, particularly team sports, like Will's got a background in rugby, it's not a matter of we're going to run to that line as soon as we get to that to pass it. You've got to there's so many other variables before you're able to.
There's too many uncontrollable.
100%, that's the word.
Like, I think we can get it to a point, but I still think there's an uncontrollable, and I also think that's the entertainment part. Like, to me, that's the bit. Sometimes I get frustrated around even DRS reviews and that sort of stuff. There's an element of that I don't like, because it's, what else are we going to talk about in the pub after the I sort of wish that would go away, because we've got nothing to talk about sometimes.
In terms of the variability that Will was talking about, I had a story at the French Open where I watched Rafa play an Australian actually, and the Australians seemed to get a lot of bad bounces. Rafa never got any bad bounces, it seemed. And then after the match, I was talking to Game on Feast, a really brilliant French tennis player. He's really delightful. And he said, yes, we have a saying in clay quarters, us people who've grown up on clay, that a hard court player says on playing on clay, I got all these bad bounces today, it's unfair. How did that happen? And a clay quarter says, I can't believe how badly I moved my feet today for the same set of bad bounces. So Rafa was just moving his feet so beautifully, and the other guy was stuck.
It's a great way of looking at it.
It's almost like taking ownership, like not blaming.
And
blaming
it
the
comes
outside.
that's where I think the human variability is always going to be there. Even if you have a AI intervention, I think we're going to have that human cognition. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
That's still going to be there, and we're not going to be taken over. But before I rudely cut you off, you were talking about where AI was going to have a huge impact.
Well, I think, we know maths and music are completely interlinked. So it's not, I think, going to be surprising that AI will be brilliant at making recorded music. And you've probably all heard some of it. It's unbelievably good. Live music, hopefully the artists will make enough money to do live music. And that then gives the opportunity for people to connect. And so I think live music should have a good future, hopefully. Some of the other creative industries, I'm just not so sure. And it'll be a huge loss if we lose that creative, because we will lose that skill if we're not exercising it. Because
they're talking about kids losing it already because they're not tapping into that right brain to come up with ideas because they just ask chat.
That's what I was going to ask too. Like, is it going to be an effect of where we're not going to be even using that part of our brain, where AI is going to take over? We're going to lose the ability to start with, so we're not going to even be creating those creatives.
I think it's a risk. I mean, you've got to, coming up with a new idea is an incredible thing, isn't it? Like dreaming up something from nothing is just an incredible thing. But it's something that you have to exercise like any other skill.
It. So when it comes to authoring, how much do you think that can be outsourced to an AI? And keeping in mind that this is the worst that AI is ever going to be. It's only going to get better. It's only going to learn from what we're feeding it.
Look, so there are stories of authors publishing 16 books a day using AI publishing tools. They're rubbish. They only want to sell 2 or 3 copies and they get taken off the market. That's a big risk, because if people start to distrust what they buy as an author, they will then to focus on the names that they know and trust, which doesn't give opportunities for new authors to come online and doesn't encourage them to put themselves out there and create new things. So I'm worried about it. It doesn't affect me financially, but I'm worried about for us as a
future generation,
as a society that will lose.
That's where the fine line is. I think that creativity is the thing that I agree worry. Yeah. Whereas there's other stuff that I think it's epic for. Like I would argue that it sometimes creates better knowledge because you're willing to keep searching. It's so easy to search for it. You're like, well, I might as well go and dive into that particular topic. Like I know even from like an accounting perspective, like as soon as a problem comes up, I can dive into it. I can really clearly get into the knowledge of it without having to go to a textbook or something like that. I can really dive into it. Really understand. Well, not just productivity, but I think it's so easy accessible to increase my knowledge around what I'm doing. I think that's a really great thing. Yeah. But the creativity bit, I think that's the bit that I do worry about as well.
What about from an editing perspective? Is that something you think it can help with?
Oh, definitely. I use it for editing now because it just saves so much time, and it does a great job at it. I don't use it to write anything, but I definitely use it to edit. I mean, Word is in its form, just Word is a form of AI, so it's just by degree. So no, I'm not. It would be tempting though, and I do use it for research. Like I use Perplexity, and I'll say, explain to me how this works, because I don't understand. So I learn a lot by using AI or just Google. But from I use Google Maps all the time. Like I'm writing situational so my current one I'm about to release is set between Lake Como and Zurich. I could just get online, walk down the street of Zurich that I'd picked out, and describe it, and I can just.
So you've gone outside of Australia?
Yeah, so I've gone outside of Australia
Oh,
this
wow,
time.
okay.
Google Maps is brilliant for an author.
You can
Like,
literally walk down the street.
without having to go anywhere. It's fantastic.
Mate, for a young author that's starting out, looking at all these challenges and everything else that we talked about today, what would be your best advice?
Oh, well, I'm not, I don't know that I'm the right.
Well, let's take the word young out. Any author that's starting out.
Don't do it for fame and fortune. You've got to do it because you love doing it, and focus on the process of doing it, developing your craft, because you will get better by just doing.
Yeah.
And if your goal is to be a famous author, not many people become famous authors. So I would say focus on the process, become disciplined about the process, write your book, and then write the next one. And it's tempting to get frustrated because you're not being picked up by one of the big publishing houses.
On that, how do you get your work published?
Oh, I self-publish. I'm talking to some publishers, but I do self-publish.
Yeah.
Because.
But how do you go about even self-publishing? How does that work?
It's amazing, actually. I bought some software, some publishing software that converts my Word document into a publishable format.
Yeah.
I sourced a cover designer in the US. I've had an editor in the US because I chose those because the US is a big market, but I chose the US author because I pick up all my Aussie vernacular that I don't realise is Aussie vernacular. And some of the ones she comes back with me, I go, really? They don't understand what spit the dummy means? Like, who in the world doesn't understand what spit the dummy means? So there's all these sort of idioms that we use that. So I've had to, now my books have Australianisms in the back to talk about all those things. But yeah, that's why I did that. And then you go to one of the platforms and you just publish it. Like it's an incredibly easy. It's not simple, but it's not difficult. And for anyone who's got
a mathematics degree like you, Don, mate, you'd be fine.
You would be absolutely fine, Don. You'd work
Well,
it out.
this is what I said at the start. This is so far from my expertise. I wouldn't even know where to start, let alone the fact that I'll be writing 3 books at any given time, which is going to crash.
We are out of time, Don. Is there anything that you had that you must say before we get stuck into the quick fire?
But I think, we've got to stop at some point.
You ready?
Yep.
Coffee order.
Flat white or piccolo?
Early morning rider or late night thinker?
Early morning rider.
What are you completely useless at?
I'm completely useless at I get stuck on things. So not changing my mind quickly enough sometimes is what I'm useless at.
Are you structured or spontaneous?
Structured.
Favourite holiday destination?
I'd say I've got heaps, but Australian desert.
A movie star you'd love to meet?
Ryan Atkinson.
A song you just have to sing along to?
Anything by the Beatles or ELO.
One word that defines you?
Curious.
What gives you energy?
Being around like-minded people on pursuing a single-minded goal.
What's harder, building a business or finishing a novel?
Definitely building a business.
If not tennis, what sport would you think you would have played?
Probably golf.
What are you working on to improve yourself right now?
I'm really working on my golf game because it's absolute rubbish at the moment. So I'm working hard at that.
And a movie you've watched more than 3 times?
Any James Bond movie, I've watched all of them more than 3 times.
Last question. What are you mastering right now?
Golf.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Peter. Really appreciate all your insights, mate. You've lived a wonderful life and so many different experiences many people can draw from. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on. It's been an absolute joy.
For our listeners, where can they find you?
Probably best through my website, pg-robertson.com, and that will show my novel from my novel's point of view.
Yep.
So pg-robertson.com, and all my novels are there. My new one will come out, and I publish a monthly newsletter. I think you guys are on the list.
I get mine every month.
So that's a bit of fun, and just I call it Insights into the Life of a Crime Writer. Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to say. I did actually have in thought to say great things happen from just doing. I've had some incredible experiences just from my authoring. I've got to meet murder detectives. I've got to go to an incident room. I've got to get in the mind of investigators and how they go about solving a crime.
Yeah, wow.
They're fantastic experiences. And I get people reach out and say how much they've enjoyed my books and how it's kept them company, through difficult times. And so all of those things make it worthwhile. So I think, that process of just keeping moving forward and doing your thing delivers surprising results.
Have you had to do any research on criminals?
Oh yeah, I read all that all the time. I mean,
have you ever had to go and meet anyone or
No, I haven't had.
that?
They keep me away from that. It'd probably be a mistrial if I.
That's a great way to finish, and that is absolutely some great advice there to go and chase your dream, and you never know where it's going to end up.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed this exciting episode of the Mastering Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, hit that subscribe button now and share this episode with a friend. Until next time.